Alright guys, once you have, I just drilled one hole for you here so I can show you the rivet press here. Once you drilled your hole, you can get your rivets. Again, the rivets we get at, I get them at knifekits.com. There's different sizes, get the ones that fit your sizes. The 1/4 inch I use for 93.93 thousandths will work for the 80. Now there's two different ways you can do rivets. When I started out, I was using the rivet, the hammer press. This is like $23 or something like that. You would put your rivet in, take it, and this is your bottom anvil. You would line that up, and then you would take the roundover rivet here and pound it. Now, the trouble with this is you got to keep it perfectly straight, and I had several split out once they round. If it's not perfectly straight, they'll either shift to the side or split. So if you're going to get into Kydex, I wouldn't even bother with this size. They do make one with a C clamp that holds everything level. That'd be a better option for pounding. You could put them in a vise like this or an arbor press. The other problem with this style is, see how big this anvil is? If I go onto my sheath, you'll see how that circle overlaps the blade. That makes your sheaths, you have to have a flat spot for this anvil. So you move your hole from right there by the blade, right there, you got to move it out to here. So something to consider. So your rivet would be like in here somewhere. The quality of Kydex sheath or holster or anything just isn't as good. On a gun, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. You had a bigger flat spot, you could get away with it there. So if you're looking for a cheap alternative, like I said, 23 or 24 bucks for the setting tool. I would go with an arbor press. If you're going to do any amount of them, the arbor presses are just 10 times better. Here all you do is, it's got, this is the one from Knife Kits. It's got a set screw here that holds in your top press piece, and then it's got a hole drilled that fits the bottom one. So that just presses them right in. Very nice finish, just absolutely perfect. You have to make sure this stays in place. If it shifts any a little bit, you can get, when you press it down, you can get scuff marks on the top of your rivet. Let me just show you. I mean, you really don't, it holds itself in. Just kind of jiggle it a little bit, make sure everything's lined up. Let's see if I can do this one-handed here. You just push it down. Then this isn't clamped to the vise, so it doesn't take much pressure. You get a nice rolled over rivet. Oh, a little stuff there. But just a really nice finish. So if you're going to do it, this was about 70 bucks through Knife Kits. These are like 30 something, 36 for the dies, which, by the way, most of my sheaths that I sell are around that price range. So if you're looking to do this, make sure you're going to do quite a few of them, because it does get costly. I know you can get these arbor presses at Harbor Freight for 20 some bucks, but then you have about 36 in the dies, so you're still looking at 50, anywhere from 50 to 100 bucks for your rivet setup. For the rivets, you have to buy 100 at a time. They're anywhere from 12 bucks to 17, so you have 100 of those. But this is well worth it. If you're going to do any amount of gun holsters, say you have a lot of guns you want holsters for, this will pay for itself. But very nice product. I'm trying to think. That's about it for the arbor presses. It's just, this is the route I would recommend if you're going to do any amount of them. Spend the money and get this. It does a great job. Alright, so once we're all riveted, like I said, you'll trim. Let me just move some stuff here. You'll trim out to what you want for your holes or for your holster. Once everything's good to go. And then for that, again, like I said, you use a bandsaw is the best way to do it. Once it's all riveted together, it's hard to use the tin snips for that. You can for some of it, but a bandsaw or scroll saw are your best bets. Alright guys, edge finishing here. Once you're cut out, trimmed, roughed in, whatever you want to call it, you got the shape you want, you really like it, you're happy with it, everything's bent to what you like. What I do, I'll go through and sand everything once it's rough cut. For that, I'll use a 1-inch bandsaw, or not bandsaw, I'm sorry, sander. This has the 1-inch sander and the disc wheel. This is a Harbor Freight. This works really well. So I will use that on flat edges, anything pretty big. But when you get these corners and all your angles, it just doesn't, you can't do it. For some of it, I like using a grinder. That'll get, I have the hard edge to use, that'll get into corners. And I can run it up this way really nice, whereas you can't with the 1-inch. So I can use this. That works really well. So if you have a bench grinder, it's a great way to do your Kydex. Actually, I use a bench grinder more than I do the 1-inch. The 1-inch I just use for touch-up before I buff it. So if you have a grinder, that works really well. For getting into those tight corners, on like a gun holster, what I use is a rotozip. You either use a sanding bit, or this is a little mini buffing wheel that'll fit into the small corners really well. You just hit your corners, and that'll buff it out with the buffing wheel, or sand it depending on what your needs are, how rough it is. When you get into some knife sheaths, you have all these little grooves to run depending on the contour you do and how nice you want it to look. But the router works, not the router, I'm sorry, the rotozip works really well for that. A Dremel would work great too. So that's kind of one of the finishing steps. Once you're cut, riveted, go and rough it in, kind of sand it. It's kind of a rough sand is what I call it. And then I use the rotozip, do all my corners and all the tight spaces. And then the way I get my shiny, really nice looking edges, makes it look like one piece of Kydex for the most part. I take it over, and I'll use the buffer. This again is a Harbor Freight. The quality for the price, you can't beat them. The light on here. I use 3 different buffing wheels. That's a sanding wheel. This is just a fluff one I don't really use. That's more for knives. It's got a hard and then a soft, just the disked one. But what I do here is I'll take, this has a hard medium. I use that first to get any of my saw lines out or sanding lines that I want. I'll buff that first with that, and then I'll take it over if I want to round an edge. To kind of round it over, I'll use, this is just a, you see the stitching is about halfway, just pretty loose buffing wheel, and I'll use that. And then when I'm done with that, I'll take it over to the right side here. This is a soft wheel, but it's stitched, maybe about a 1/2 inch down. It's stitched all the way up, so it's real stiff. And that gives me a really nice polish finish. You can see the gray here. That is I use a white buffing compound. And that just shines the edges. Really nice. Kind of melts it in. So that's what I use for my edges. That, and then the tight corners I'll use the rotozip. But very nice way to finish your holsters or your sheaths. So, and that's pretty much the finished product, and then we'll go through and accessorize with either fire steel loops, and all that is connected with Chicago screws that I use. Like I said, I get those from MC Squared. It's a online place. So, I think that's about it. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, once you have everything buffed, like this belt loop here, this is a Kydex loop, this will be sticking straight up when you go to buff it. I don't actually do my final bend on something like this until after it's buffed and polished. So I would have that all sticking up, buff the back side, all of this, and then I will go through, heat it with a heat gun, bend it down, or I'll bend my top loop, I hook first, and then bend it where I want it there. So a lot of stuff you kind of have to watch that, buffing it before. All my horizontal sheaths that have the Kydex loops, those pieces will all be buffed ahead of time and then bent. So just keep that in mind when you're going through. Think ahead. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't rivet something before it's been buffed or ready, or make sure it's all good. Sometimes it's hard to go backwards on it. So, hope this helps you guys. Just give you kind of a little tutorial. I'll put this together, see if it's going to be 1 or 2 parts. I'm not sure yet. So, any questions, feel free to ask. Just some price points for what I sell on my site. A sheath like this is around $50 for the horizontal. There's a lot of work that goes into bending all these little ends, a lot of time. One of these smaller sheaths, these are like both $25-$30 depending on the knife and the size. My gun holsters right now, for a simple holster or with a light, this style is $45 on the website right now. I have 5 or 6 guns I can do on hand. I just got the Glock clone to start doing some of those. Otherwise, I've got the XDs, the Bodyguards, LCP, and a P22. So not a whole lot, but a couple. For like my clippers sheaths are right around $38. My clippers and my Triflexes here, so those are about right around $40, give or take. It depends on accessories or features or what you want. On my website I do have some standard pricings for some sheaths that I work up and have on hand. So for the price, if you find, I try to keep my prices to where I'd like to pay, so they're fairly low. So by the time you were to get done buying, your rivets and your presses, you'd already have more. So if you're not going to do, say you have 6 guns you want holsters for, then it's worth probably doing Kydex. But I'd price out, if it's worth buying, if you only have 1 or 2 guns, it's probably cheaper to just buy from a guy that does them. But just some thoughts there. But it is fun. It's a good hobby if you're a do-it-yourselfer. A lot of pride in being able to make these. I love making these. I just sent which one was it? A BK2 sheath. It'd be one of the bigger ones like this. I sent one of those to Germany, and then I've got a couple clippers and Moras in Sweden, and it's fun. It's kind of nice to know that your stuff's being used all around the world. So. All right. Any questions? Feel free to ask. Any advice that you guys want or that I missed, please contact me. Let me know, and we can get that answered. For any, if you want to check out some Kydex stuff, I've got my website Grizzly-Outdoors.com, and I should have a pretty good list. Anything that you can think of, we can make. Just send me an email. There is a custom order section on the website. We can do, like I said, anything you can dream up. I'm Kydexing a car next week, so we'll see how that goes. It's actually a handgun, so the car handgun. But so yeah, we can do anything. I've actually used this stuff in my car, in my Jeep for some console stuff. Actually, they actually use Kydex is big on speaker boxes. They use a lot of that for speaker boxes. So it's amazing what you can use this stuff for. Cup holders, flashlight holders, whatever. So, alright, thanks for watching. Hope this helps somebody.